Hello and welcome to another tutorial from CamiPaige Boutique. I'm Brooke Tannehill and today I'm going to be showing you how I made this Christmas printed vinyl peekaboo tumbler. As always, all the products I use will be listed in the description below, and you may even find a coupon code or two that saves you some coin. Also, come join our exclusive Facebook group where you can take advantage of upcoming freebies and giveaways that you aren't going to want to miss. So without further hesitation, let's go ahead and get started. For this design, I am using a 20-ounce straight no taper from AB Design Co. tumbler, and this is the Antique Music Notes vinyl from Peachy Olive Glitter. And what I'm going to do is just hold the vinyl up to the side of the cup and just roughly mark the height in which I need to cut the vinyl for it to go fully around the tumbler. So I'm going to do it at the height, and I'm also going to do it at the width. And what I have found is by doing this, it helps me to save vinyl and keep nice straight pieces that I can use on future projects, and it also helps me to do my wraps a little bit easier. So I just have started doing this. I won't do it every time, but sometimes if I feel inclined, I will do so. So I'm just going to use my scrapbook paper cutter just to kind of get it as straight as possible, and then we're ready to apply it to the tumbler. I'm going to grab my ultimate decal tool from CamiPaige Boutique, hold it onto my tumbler, and just mark a straight line. This helps me to make sure that my vinyl is perfectly lined up and I get nice straight lines with my vinyl. Now, this is even more important with this vinyl design because it has the music notes and the straight lines in it. So you really want to make sure that you're getting this vinyl as straight as possible onto your cup because it's really going to set you up for success. So I'm just going to cut a little bit of the backing of that vinyl off, make sure it's nice and adhered to the tumbler, and then I'm going to be using my squeegee just to gently press the vinyl off of its backing and rotate my cup so it applies nicely over the entire surface. This squeegee is also from AB Design Co. and I absolutely love it. It just works so well. It's got the nice felt end on it so you don't scuff up any of your vinyl, and look how perfectly straight that went on the tumbler. Now, because I want nice adhesion of my next coats of epoxy, I'm going to trim the vinyl at the top rim and also at the bottom rim. I'm using the vinyl cutter from CamiPaige Boutique, and you can see just how easily it cuts the vinyl off. And it's really nice and sturdy, so you're not going to cut yourself like some of the other vinyl cutters that are out there for tumbler makers. So I'm just going to trim that vinyl, and then we're going to move into the next steps. I want to add a little bit of sparkle over this printed vinyl, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply about 15 milliliters of epoxy over the entire surface of the cup. So just making sure that it's nice and got a healthy coat on it, and I'm just going to cover the entire thing. I'm not as worried about getting a lot of epoxy on the butt of the cup because we're going to be covering that up with spray paint and glitter, but I'm just giving a nice coat to kind of the, I don't even know what to call it, the sides of the tumbler so that it's nice and coated, and that way we can sprinkle our beautiful glitters over the entire surface of the cup. So I'm going to apply my epoxy, torch it, and then I like to let it set up for probably about 2, 3, maybe 5 minutes. And that allows the glitter that we're going to be sprinkling over the entire surface to kind of not fall all the way through, but almost stay a little bit suspended. So this first glitter we're going to be using is a basic White Girl from Peachy Olive Glitters. This is a beautiful, and I mean beautiful, opal mix that just really reflects color. It has so much dimension to it. So I really wanted to sprinkle this over the whole tumbler, just like the sides of it, and then also that printed vinyl, because you can see it doesn't take away from the design of the printed vinyl, it almost enhances it. So I really thought that this was a good touch. But also the whole theme of this cup, this was actually a custom order and a custom request, was for everything to be gold and white, or like creamy whites and gold. So I started with this, and then I wanted to go in with Athena. I know everybody has heard of Athena. It is a beautiful gold mix from Peachy Olive Glitters, and I think it just really added just a little bit of extra dimension to this printed vinyl. So same thing, I'm just getting little pinches of it and just kind of sprinkling it here and there over the surface of the cup. I'm going to let this cure. So this is Artistry's 1-to-1 fast set. I'm going to let this dry for about 2 hours, and then I'm going to go in with another coat of about 15 milliliters over the top of this glitter, and then we're ready to move into our next steps. For the peekaboo, we're going to be using an SVG that I created. You can find it on the CamiPaige Boutique website, but it is a layered SVG, so it has both the peekaboo decals in it as well as the offsets so that you can easily create this design and replicate it for your own cups. But I'm just going to cut this out on stencil vinyl like you see here, and then I'm just going to use my regular transfer tape and apply it over the entire surface of the decal, just like you would do with any kind of template. But what I like to do to set me up for success is I actually use a ruler and I draw a straight line on my decal like you can see there. And then I'm also going to use my ultimate decal tool and draw a straight line on the cup. Now, the line that you draw on your transfer tape is going to be at a point that you can really see it and it's not covered up by a decal. I'm then going to pull the paper backing off of the back of it, just like so, and then just put my cup in my CamiPaige Boutique cup cradle, line those straight lines up perfectly because you'll be able to see them. So you'll see them right here as I turn the tumbler. And what that does is allows me to know that my decals are going to be applied perfectly straight on this cup. So I'm just going to take my time. And if you guys have ever used this stencil vinyl, you'll know that it does not like to stick to transfer tape. It likes that backing really well. So I apologize for this angle, but we're going to apply it just like we do our printed vinyl that we did earlier, just slowly pushing the backing off of the vinyl using the transfer tape. I don't know why I did this angle live. It really sucks for you guys, but I promise that's what we're doing. And then you'll be able to see how well those decals just kind of lay down, or really the stencil vinyl that you'll see here. So I'm just going to take my time, make sure that the vinyl is really well and pushed down to the cup because you do not want any of those edges kind of sticking up. So see, you can see all of the decals just nicely applied to this tumbler. Now, one thing I want to note, I'm gonna explain what I'm doing here in a second, but the layer that we laid down underneath what will be the decal is going to be the offset. So it's going to be an area around the decal that we'll place that is actually going to be a peekaboo so that you can see the vinyl through the decal around the edges. So I just wanted to call that out in case there's any confusion. But what I am doing here is I am actually using puffy paint to go over the details of the stencil decals that we laid down. I know that there are other creators that like to use a hot glue gun, and actually I started with my hot glue gun, but it wasn't working for the fine details that I have here. So you can see I switched over to the overhead view. I am just using puffy paint and following the outlines of that decal, so that way I'll be able to see where to pull the vinyl once I use my spray paint and glitter over the top of this, because we will be doing kind of a burst ombre with this design. So you really want to take your time and mark where this vinyl is underneath all the goodies that you'll be adding, because otherwise it will be a complete nightmare trying to find out where your vinyl is underneath all your layers of other decorations. So this stuff dries really quickly, so it's not going to be a major time investment, but you can see there how well I can get it into some of those crevices or more detailed oriented spots. So it really helped to outline where everything was on this tumbler. Once all the dots were dry, I took the tumbler outside and I spray painted it once using Almond from Rust-Oleum 2x paint and primer spray paint. Let that dry, and then I mixed up about, I would say, 10 milliliters of epoxy. I'm using a little bit more on this tumbler because we are going to be using two pretty chunky mixes on this, and I want to make sure that I've got enough epoxy to really adhere the glitter well over the whole surface of the cup. Now, I'm not using the full 10 milliliters. I still probably only use 3, but after I get that epoxy nice and evenly applied over the whole tumbler, I'm going to start in the middle with Athena. So this is the same glitter that we started out with the gold when we went through on the printed vinyl. So we're just going to start with Athena, and then I'm going to kind of tilt it down to help that glitter start to cascade upwards, and then do the same thing downwards. So that way you're really starting to get the blend and the placement of your glitters. See, I'm holding the glitter bottle up very high so that it really nicely kind of sprinkles down the cup. And then once I'm happy with that, I am going to go in with chunky Parabatai mix. I love this white. It's so pretty. It has pearlescent colors in it, like pearlescent white. So it really gives a nice soft white color that was just perfect for kind of the etherical look that we're going with this tumbler. So I'm going to start on the butts and really cover that section well, and then I'm going to tilt it down and start to blend this chunky mix into the Athena glitter that we already placed down. Just go back and forth with the blends until you're happy with it. These actually blended really well, so I really didn't have to go back and forth at all. But once they're all applied, you're going to come through with a gloved hand, and I like to kind of pat down any of the chunky pieces. You can't really roll it like you do your typical tumblers because it does have the pokey bits on it from the vinyl, but I did come in one last time with the Parabatai just to make sure that I had nice, great coverage, and then it was time to start the painstaking process of removing all of the vinyl from the peekaboo. For this step, I would say the two most important tools to have are, these are just like cosmetic tweezers, the ones that you just keep in your bathroom, and I have my X-Acto knife. I feel like those are the two best tools for kind of making this as fast and easy as a process as possible. I will say it's not too bad. It's just kind of grueling at times, and I don't recommend using a fast set. I decided to just to kind of prove a point live because the girls were giving me a hard time. I don't know if that was the best decision, but you can see that you're just going to go through and kind of use your X-Acto knife and poke it into the dots that we applied, and that's going to expose a little bit of that vinyl and kind of pry it up a little bit, and then you come in with the bathroom tweezers and just remove the rest of the vinyl. I really found that that is the fastest and easiest way to get the vinyl removed, but you will see just how beautiful it is when you come in and you get all of the vinyl finally kind of removed from the peekaboo that we applied. So take your time. You really want to make sure to, once, like, if you think you're done, I cannot say this enough, make sure to look at it 2 or 3 times just to make sure that you have all of the vinyl off. Otherwise, you're going to be like, ah, crap, I left this on, and you're going to have it dried to your cup with epoxy, so you're not going to be able to remove it. So take your time. Do not use fast set for this step like I did, and just make sure to triple check so that you aren't leaving any of the vinyl peekaboo pieces on your tumbler. Once I was done removing all of the vinyl, I spray sealed this tumbler twice with Rust-Oleum clear gloss spray paint, let that fully dry, and then I went in with 2 coats of Artistry's 1-to-1 fast set, and then it was time to apply our decals and do some always fun sanding. Once those 2 coats of epoxy are dry, I'm going to grab my Dremel and my flap wheel and just clean up that top rim of the tumbler to expose that stainless steel so we get really great adhesion of our final layers of epoxy. So I'm just going to cruise around it pretty quickly, and then I'm going to grab my sanding block and just kind of clean up any rough edges that the flap wheel might have created. This is just to ensure if anyone drinks from your tumbler from the side of it versus a straw, they're not going to cut their lip accidentally or have any kind of sharp pokey edges when they're taking a sip. So once that is done, I am going to make sure to start sanding the rest of the tumbler. You do not want any pokey bits sticking up, and you do want to have the tumbler as smooth as possible when you go in to apply your offsets, because it will show if you have any kind of bumpy areas. You'll just see little bumps in your vinyl, and it isn't cute and nobody likes it. So take your time sanding the butt, even though we're not placing decals there, and then any of the pokey spots that you might see on your tumbler, just to make sure that you are handing off a perfectly smooth cup to your customers. Once all your sanding is done, you're going to want to wash your tumbler with Dawn just soap and water, let it fully dry, cut your beautiful decals, and then we will start to apply them onto your tumbler. Now, I will tell you that in person, you can read this decal perfectly, but for some reason, it does not like to photograph well. But I promise you, you can see it. It looks beautiful, but I used more of the coppery color textured vinyl from Crickets, so I will link that down in the description below. I cut my decal out, and I wanted to, instead of just kind of going for it like I used to, or what I usually do with most of my decals, I did want to cut the decal into several pieces to apply it. That way I can make sure that I got everything lined up and that you could really get the offset effect of the musical printed vinyl that you see there. So I'm going to cut off that bottom king section with a couple of the stars. Then I'm coming in with Glory. You can just see how beautiful this font is. I really love the way just like the words come together in the nice star accents. And then to the newborn was a little bit tougher to apply. I actually got to the not lined up the way I wanted to, so I had to remove them and then reapply them. But to each their own. So I'm just gonna come in and stick down those stars, and I just got everything nice and lined up. Once that was done, it was time to move in to the angels. So I cut the angels with the offsets. Again, they are just already designed and ready for you to go in the SVG file itself, but you're just going to come in and kind of place the angels around the different peekaboo places. Once that's done, I grab my quick seal from Artistry Epoxy, and I'm just going to take my time making sure that I have a nice healthy coat over all of the vinyl work we just did. There is nothing worse than when you get all of your vinyl laid down, you go into a coat of epoxy, and then your vinyl lifts and you've got these pokey pieces in your cup. It's not cute. So take this added just step of adding this one's called Quick Seal to your tumbler. Make sure that it's fully dry, because if it's not fully dry, it will be milky. But then I went in with 2 final coats of epoxy, and this baby was done. I think this turned out so pretty, and I just absolutely love the look and feel that it gives off for this wonderful time of year. I hope this tutorial inspires you, and I can't wait to see what you create. If you have any questions about any of the steps or information, please feel free to reach out and I'll be more than happy to help. As always, thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you like this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see future videos. You can also ring the bell so you're notified of all future cup making goodies. Thank you again. I love you guys. Bye.